Welcome to the Property Renovation Podcast with your host, James Woodham, giving you the best tips on achieving the perfect renovation whilst making it as fun, safe and as cost-effective as possible by hearing from experts in the industry and people that have been through the experience themselves. Let me introduce your host, 3 times award winner of leading renovation website House and over 15 years in the industry, renovating just over 200 properties, James Woodham.
Hello guys, welcome to the Property Renovation Podcast. This is the first time that we're going to actually do a video and audio podcast at the same time. So bear with me if there are any stumbles. So just before I start, I just want to say that this is a quick episode. This is about snagging on a project and what snagging is all about. But before I start about that, I actually want to just mention that you can share us on iTunes and Stitcher, and you can go to our Facebook group, which is our private Facebook group. In there, we're going to have all value tips and tricks, and some more information, not necessarily that will be on the podcast. So you can go to facebook.com/groups/ the Property Renovation Podcast. And so let's just get on to it. So what is snagging on a project? And if you don't know, snagging is a list at the end of a project that the client will collate about all of the things that they're not happy with, that needs to be adjusted, that's not quite right. And they would then give that list to the building company and they would have to go through it. And they'd have a certain amount of time to complete it to the satisfactory of the client. Just a couple of examples about what snagging is. So a snagging can be an alteration where the clients changed their mind. They thought that they wanted it this way, but they want it now that way. Something that needs to be fitted, but that wasn't available at the time. So maybe there was an appliance that needed to be fitted or something fixed onto the wall that needed to be put there, but it wasn't around when the project was there. So and it arrived late, so it needed to be done at the end. Another example is a customer wanting an improvement of works already carried out. So this is what I was just saying here. And I'm going to give a couple of examples in a minute. Or simply, the building company's forgotten to do something, but they've charged for it. So it's been picked up and the client wants it done now. So it's extremely common for this to go through, for any client to go through and create a snagging list. It is very, very common. It doesn't mean that the building company is no good. It doesn't mean that they haven't thought about you and tried to include everything and purposely missed things out. It's just a simple part of the thing. There's a lot of things that go on in a renovation, and the building company might think that it is to the standard to be accepted, but you might think differently. And this is where a snagging list ends up coming in. So couple of examples of snagging. So another coat of paint might be needed. So you might think that it's a little bit shady. It needs another layer of paint. So that's a snagging. That's at the end of it, you'd figure out that you need another coat of paint. How about like if you're doing tiles on the wall and the grout that goes in between the tiles, you have a close look and there's maybe some holes where it's not been quite filled properly. So that's another thing. You know, it's another part of the snagging list. About kitchen doors. If you had a kitchen fitted and the kitchen doors are not lined up correctly, or maybe there is a screw missing from one of the handles or something like that, that's part of a snagging list as well. And then another one is just about silicone. So when you've had a bathroom fitted or you've had your worktop put on the kitchen, a nice finish of silicone would go around the sides to fill in the gaps between any corners. And that's always done at the end because silicone needs no dust in its way. Otherwise, the application is no good. So it's always done at the end. And this will be an area that may be forgotten in certain areas, and you'd pick it up on a snagging list. So depending on the contractor and the customer relationship by this point, and let's face it, you know, in a home, it's quite testing, quite stressful for any building company to work with a homeowner As a homeowner, your life is disrupted, and as a building company, it's all about, you know, getting in the job, finishing it on time, and receiving some profit at the end of it, but you being satisfied. So it's stressful for both parties anyway. But any good building company is going to want to make sure that ultimately you are satisfied, you're happy, and you know, going through that snagging list, it can be annoying for any building company if it is quite long and it's going to take some time to complete that. But any good building company, if they've got passion about their job, they're going to want you to be happy at the end of it. So it doesn't matter how long that snagging list is. Just go around with the building company, complete it. And ultimately, the most important thing for a homeowner is don't accept poor standards of work. So don't, if your building company is there and they're saying, well, you know, you just have to accept it, this is the way it is, then get a second opinion. If you're not happy, you don't have to accept it. It needs to meet your standards within reason, as long as it can practically be done. So yeah, don't accept it like that. Get a second opinion. To get a second opinion, there is impartial companies out there. There are companies that provide a snagging service where they would come round and they would take an impartial view, and they would go through everything and list everything that needs to be improved where it can be. So then you can give that over to the building company, and you can say, well, please, you know, let's work through lists, let's talk about it. If it gets to a stage where they feel that it's not unfair, you might have to make an agreement where they part and you get someone in to complete the final part of the job. However, you know, if you feel like you're being told to accept things and that you're not happy, you know, get that second opinion. The thing is, it's always about timing, the right time for snagging. I want to talk about this bit because it's known that customers might not necessarily know when certain parts of work need to be finished or need to be done. And there are, from a builder's point of view, reasons why certain parts of the work need to be done at the end for an improvement or, you know, to be added onto the snagging list, for instance. So there is always a right time for snagging. Don't go round, you know, with a building company. Don't be contacting them 24/7 and saying, I'm not happy with this, I'm not happy with that, because they might not necessarily be finished with the work. So, you know, it's always best, if you can, wait to the end and then do the whole snagging list in one go. Because then that way you're going to leave them to get on with the job. And then there'll be, you know, it will be done, finished a lot quicker. Always walk around with the building company, create a list of all the items, document with photos as well. So if you're not happy with something, don't just write it down, take a photo so you can really point and say, this is the section that I'm not happy with. Get a timescale of all the completion of works. Get them to fill out a form and list on that form, and then put a date right next to it where they have to agree with that date for those final works to be completed. Get the building company to sign that as well. Get the building company to sign the final works so that they understand a few things. They understand that the work needs to be completed to the standard that you're expecting. They understand that they need to meet it by a certain date. And yeah, they need to sign that to agree with it. And monitor the progress as well. If you think that, you know, there's a day left and they've still not done it, and you think it's going to take more than a day to complete that snagging, then just, you know, out of curiosity, just give them a call and say, hey, you know, like, there's 24 hours left. You know, you're gonna be able to complete it on time. If not, just let me know so I'm not too inconvenienced. Remember to always ask your builder about the snagging process before the project starts. Every builder works differently. So if you're getting to sign the contract and you're really happy with taking on this building company, ask them about their snagging process. Some companies, they accept that snagging can take up to 2 weeks to complete. Some companies accept 30 days to complete. So you really want to know what their process is and how they're going to work for you. I mentioned about the supporting photos, clear instruction as well. So if it means that you need to be there and you need to say and point to it and explain how it is, maybe you want to show them a support photo from the internet of saying, right, I want it to look exactly like this. Then they really, really understand you. And then there's no miscommunication. There's no repeating it for the third time. So, just to summarize, timing, walk around with a building company, create a list of all the items, document with all the photos, show them other photos from the internet as an example, get a timescale, get them to sign the final works agreement, and get you and monitor the progress as well. That's about it for now. So I hope you enjoyed that. Don't forget, you can share the Property Renovation Podcast on iTunes. It's on Stitcher as well. And just come into the Facebook group, which is facebook.com/groups/the Property Renovation Podcast. I really hope you enjoyed this audio and video podcast. Speak to you soon. Thank you very much.